So tonight for dinner, I'm going to make meatballs and pasta sauce in my Instant Pot. I'm not going to cook the pasta in the Instant Pot. I have tried that before, and it's okay, but I actually like my pasta a little more al dente. But I think the Instant Pot is a great way to cook meatballs. So what I'm doing is I have a pound of ground turkey and ground turkey sausage, a pound of turkey sausage. And the first step here is making my meatballs, which are pretty easy. You can just take any recipe you like for basic meatloaf. And what I like to do is I have about 1/2 cup of Parmesan cheese. I have some onions. I have garlic. I actually cut some herbs out of the garden. I've cut up some oregano, some nice Cuban oregano, which has nice thick leaves that are easy to chop, and some parsley and a little tiny bit of basil that I had. And then I'm actually going to throw in a whole bunch of very finely chopped kale because I have it and it's good for you and it'll make this pretty. Now I have about maybe 3/4 of a cup of unseasoned Italian breadcrumbs. I have a little bit of milk. I put about 1/8 of a cup of milk. I'm going to put probably about 1/4 of a cup of chili sauce in there, if I can get that out of there. Here we go. The first chili sauce out of the bottle needs a little prompting. All right. I'm just winging it with that. Okay, that's plenty. That's good. And then 2 eggs. That is my recipe for meatloaf or meatballs. One other thing I like to add is a little bit of Worcestershire sauce, about a capful. And the best way to mix up meatloaf is with a KitchenAid mixer. So let that go until that gets nice and mixed up, and then I'll make some fun little meatballs. That should only take about a second. Okay, so now it looks like this is all nicely mixed together. It's got a good consistency, and my next chore, whenever I'm dealing with meat, I take my wedding ring off because it gets so dirty. And you have to wash your hands really good before and after you do this. Now I'm just going to shape some meatballs, and I make them pretty good size, about 1 inch in diameter. And lay those on a plate until I'm ready to get the Instant Pot out and make my tomato sauce to go with this. Okay, so with 2 pounds of meat, I think I came up with about 30 meatballs that I made. You could use, obviously, ground beef. You could make meatballs with lamb. We like turkey because it's lean. So what I'm doing now, now I've taken out my Instant Pot. I have the inner liner there, and I have my lid ready to go with the rim around it like that. Everything's nice and clean. And what I'm going to do now, I've hit this on Saute, and I'm letting the pan get a little bit warm before I put in just a little bit of olive oil. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make some really nice red sauce and cook the meatballs in that red sauce. So I put about a tablespoon of olive oil in this pan, and that's getting warm on the Saute button. And I've cut up a little bit more garlic, grind that a little bit finer. We'll put that into that pan. You can hear it sizzling because the pan is nice and hot. I cut up a nice bell pepper that I got from the greenhouse where I work. And I'm going to put that in there like that and let that get to sizzling. I love that sound. Let that go for about a minute. Okay, so that garlic's starting to get a little bit soft, and the peppers are getting soft, and now I'm just one by one, I'm going to put these meatballs into the Instant Pot. One thing I like about making meatballs in the Instant Pot is when you do them, I sometimes bake meatballs in the oven, they get a little dried out and they can get a little too cooked on the bottom. I'm not crazy about frying meatballs on the stovetop and getting all greasy. So this is a way to get them cooked without making a mess, and it's a really nice way to go. And you can pile these on top of each other and they will get cooked. So we're almost done getting those in there. And then what I'm going to do is pour 1 large can of tomato puree over the top of that. Scrape that out. I like to put in 1 large can of crushed tomatoes. Okay. And a good dose of dried Italian seasoning. Now the spices that I put into the meatballs are gonna flavor this quite a bit as well. Another thing that I like to add when I make spaghetti sauce is just a little bit of sugar, just maybe a half a teaspoon of sugar. And I'm gonna stir that up you gotta stir all that stuff up gently so that you don't make a mess of the meatballs that are in there. But I am ready. Yeah, that looks good. It's gonna be great. And I am ready to put the lid on the Instant Pot. Oh, wine. Let's put a splash of my wine into this sauce because that's a fabulous ingredient. Okay, so I probably put about maybe 1/4 of a cup of wine and stir that up a little bit. Okay, I think this is going to be really flavorful. And now what I'm going to do is place it's got my plastic ring around it. I'm going to turn the Instant Pot off, place the lid on securely, and make sure that the valve on the top is set to sealing. That's right in the middle. If you can see, you have 3 options here. You can set to venting on either side, but this needs to be pointing straight down to sealing. And then I put my Instant Pot on manual. If you have an Instant Pot that has a high button, you would pressure cook this on high, and I'm going to cook this for 8 minutes. Okay, so the sauce has cooked, and then I let it do a natural release for about 6 minutes. I ran into a little snag with this, and it's something that I did a little research about, and so I want to tell you about it. When I first sealed up the pot, what happened is it didn't come to pressure before the countdown started. The little valve right here at the top didn't pop up, and the 8 minutes was counting down. So I stopped what I was doing. I could take the lid off because there was no pressure built up. And what you do when you're cooking a red sauce like this is now I'm letting the steam get out. But when you're cooking a red sauce, it can be too thick sometimes to let off enough steam. So what I did is I just added some more wine to make it a little more watery a little bit. And then it built up the steam just fine. So I started over, hit 8 minutes again, it built up the pressure, and everything's good. So now we're waiting for this. I'm going to put a little bit of pasta in each of our dishes. We're having penne pasta tonight. And I cut up some salad greens. I think the dog can smell the meatballs. She's coming in to say hi. Okay, so the little valve at the top has popped down, and this is ready for me to, oh my gosh. And if you look at those meatballs. They look so pretty. They're floating around at the top of that sauce, and they're really beautifully cooked. So, actually the sauce seems now a little thin. So what I'm going to do is put it on saute for just a couple minutes to thicken it up. Okay, so I let the sauce saute for a bit. It looks beautiful. I put a couple pan lids on my pasta so it wouldn't get too cold while I was trying to thicken up that sauce. And I think, whoops, plop, these meatballs look really good. There we go. A little bit sloppy on my part. Oh, these look very nice. And a little more sauce. And a little Parmesan cheese. And what I'm going to do, and we've got breadsticks, because I remember when we traveled in Italy, when we were in the Cinque Terre, there was all these beautiful breadsticks every time we went anywhere, and I can buy those at the grocery store, and I feel like I'm back in Italy. But okay, so one thing I'm going to do before we sit down to the table is just take a bite of one of these meatballs, because I want to know if they turned out right. They're beautifully cooked, and they're certainly not dry or burn on the bottom, and they're really delicious. Okay, I hope you love this. Hope you try this at home. Add lots of wine to your sauce. Those are hot. And bon appetit. If you like this video, subscribe to my channel. And I hope you love, love, love cooking in your Instant Pot.